So go
That's
ahead.
lovely, Nargis. Thank you. And that's lovely that it's being recorded. I hope that's okay for everyone. So yeah, we've got three groups. We've got Laura, she's going to wave.
Hi, loving the babies.
Hello, Laura.
We've got Louise with baby Edward. We have Ross. And in group two, we've got Katie, who's living in Scotland but is from Georgia herself.
Yep,
we
I'll
have
be
Jasmine.
bringing some Georgian accent.
And we also have Carly. Lovely. And then in group three is myself as the facilitator, and we also have Katrina. Hopefully, Katrina, you're waving. And we also have Lucy. So today, when we go into groups, we've got Ross, Carly, and Lucy in the groups are going to be scribes. They're going to help us just take really good notes that might help with, creating a wee report afterwards. But I'd also like to say that when you go into your breakout groups, you're going to have you'll have a chance. The facilitator will share a Jamboard link, so it's a wee external link that you can have on your website, and you can chat in the Zoom chat as well. And there's going to be 3 questions that we want to explore. You might have received an email from me just beforehand giving you that. But just before we start, Jasmine, Louise, and Katrina, it's a big special thank you for them. They are from our national representative body in Who Cares Scotland. They are care experience members of Who Cares Scotland, who are democratically elected by our care experience members to represent their views and to help influence change on a national level. So we're really honoured to have them here today to be part of these discussions. So we're now going to share a little video to introduce ourselves, what we do, and then immediately after the video, you're going to be sent automatically into breakout groups where a facilitator will just lead you through the chats, the discussions, and the conversations today. So finally, in the spirit of good old-fashioned community development, we just trust the emerging wisdom that's going to come from these discussions. Let's have fun. Let's dive deep into the discussions and make connections. And just a huge thank you to all of you for being here today. So Ross, if you want to start, we'll open our video now. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you soon.
I am announcing today that we will launch an independent root and branch review of the care system. It will look at the underpinning legislation, practices, culture and ethos, and it will be driven by those.
The announcement, when the First Minister announced the care review at the SNP conference, that was a massive moment. Who Cares has been a membership organisation since 2014, but within a few years the members got that done. That was specifically the members, Who Cares Scotland's members had asked for that, and that was announced, and that was a massive, wide-ranging bit of work, the care review, that covered many, many sectors, resulting in the promise.
When I joined, it was shifting into gear of action. You know, we've secured this opportunity, what are we going to do with it? I guess there was a sense of urgency, a reactive space that we were in. We were being given the mic, not just the organisation of course, but care experience people were being focused on by the First Minister, by the highest political leaders in Scotland, which had not been the case in the past. The care review gave the opportunity for the organisation to really fly with ideas and what that change was going to look like, and to shape what the independent care review would do.
The organisation has learned a lot, I think, in the past 4 or 5 years. Because we are a fast-paced organisation, we're always trying to look to learn and to change and to evolve if we can. I would say firstly, we've certainly gone from being, in terms of our policy and our influence and work and our participation, from being at a national level far less reactive to what's going on around us in terms of what people might want from our membership or what they might want to know, whether that be government, local government, other decision makers, and move much more to a proactive model and for our members to lead everything we do.
So across the last 4 years, I think there have been a few key things. The organisation has really changed. The first one is our democratisation. The second is around how we have championed lifelong rights for care experience people. The third is our continued building of community for care experience community across Scotland. And I'd say our fourth is our ability to continue to be influential and create policy and practice change across care.
Who Cares Scotland doesn't just give you your advice, it educates you on what you're saying sometimes as well. Like there's times that before now I didn't know where my care came from or what the identity was or any of that, but they'll just tell you, no, you are that. But when you're younger, it's almost like if you don't tick a box, you're not that thing. It's also being given that self-identity that was maybe taken away from you, which within itself helps your voice, helps you become the person you need to be that maybe you weren't able to grow into. And I think they're helping shape a whole generation of care experienced people so that the next generation doesn't go through what we have to.
I didn't know I had a voice before, I didn't know I could make change. When I came into Who Cares Scotland, I was very unsure of myself, I didn't know where I was going, and Who Cares helped me find that voice, they helped me find my direction. As a care experienced person, Who Cares have supported me in many different ways by helping me understand where I've came from, helping me understand that what I went through wasn't just me. My experience is now being an older, more mature person that I can now pass on that wisdom and that to tell people, I know what you're going through, I understand, but it will get better.
We're a membership organisation, so first and foremost, belonging for us is about joining our family, as we say, and becoming a member. And we have seen membership grow in the lifetime of the Life Changes Trust contract from, I think, around 700 to I think we're almost at 3,500 now, so a massive growth in membership year on year.
I think the first time I ever saw that community that Who Cares created was when the first time I went to summer camp, and I saw kids arriving from all over Scotland and running to each other like this long lost family, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And even talking about it now, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. It was amazing, the community and the connection that these kids had, and they spent 3 days together and then they go away again and they wouldn't see each other for a year. It's given the members a voice. It's given them somewhere to say, we're here, we're going to shout about this. We want love in the care system. We need love in the care system, so that's the biggest thing that we shout about for the Love Rally.
Nobody had ever done this before. No Love Rally had ever been done anywhere in the world, and we didn't know how it was going to go. We tried to invite however many people we could, and we were just going to see what happened. We did as much planning as we could. At the end of the day, just got to see what happens. And we have people who work for Who Cares Scotland all over Scotland, and they brought the troops, as it were, to the rally, and we walked through the streets, and that was just an amazing moment. Just to, again, when you think about care experiences, it's historically been something that's kind of brushed under the carpet. It's not really spoken about historically. So many issues around that. And just to be walking through the streets of Glasgow, you know, several hundred people making a big noise and a statement about this, felt really good.
Thank you, everyone. You've all been invited to a breakout room. So you can just start going into your breakout rooms to carry on the conversations, and we'll see you all when you come back. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our breakout space. So we'll do little introductions in just a minute, but before we do that, I'll quickly share with you the link to the Jamboard. This will be our kind of working space that we'll be working in today. So if you could just join the Jamboard. What I'll do is that I'll share the screen so that we can all see. And we pretty much will do little introductions in just a minute. So yeah, welcome. Hopefully you found the video really interesting and inspiring. Absolutely, Scotland is such a wonderful place with care. So hopefully we'll get to explore what that means worldwide in this little space. We have about 40 minutes, so let's make it as fruitful and as interesting as possible. So please join and have these nice discussions. So my name is Katie Svanadze, and I work at Who Cares Scotland. Well, if you see the Jamboard on the first page, what you'll see is that we have this little map. So if you could introduce yourself and put the marker where you are from, and that way we'll know. So what you'll need to do is grab this little red circle and put it where you're from. So I'm originally from Georgia, which is so exciting that this conference is hosted by Georgia, but right now I live in Scotland. So I'm not really sure where to put this marker on, but you know what? I'll go with Georgia because I know we have a lot of people from Scotland, so that one's gonna be filled. Anyone else wants to introduce? Maybe Jasmine, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Jasmine, and I was originally born in Kenya, and I've grown up in Scotland since I was 7. So I sometimes feel a bit like Katie. I don't know where to put myself on the map, but it's a good mix of fusion and yeah, cultural and identity as well on both sides.
Absolutely.
And I'm also a member of the Who Cares Scotland and the NRB board. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jasmine and I will be kind of co-facilitating today's discussion. So please tune in with us. We also have another wonderful colleague here with us, Carly. Carly, do you want to quickly jump in?
Hi guys, my name's Carly. I work in Who Cares Scotland, just in the business support team and the fundraising team. And I'm from Scotland, nothing too interesting.
So we've got Scotland here. Who wants to go next?
I can. Hello, everybody. My name is Inara. I'm from Kazakhstan and from Georgia. I am a member of Inclusive Practices community in Georgia, but now I'm in Kazakhstan. So I'd like to hear you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's great to have you here with us today. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. This is Dominic. And I think we already have something in common in this group here, because I also find it difficult to put my dot somewhere. So I grew up in France and in Germany. I'm from a mixed family, and currently I'm working a lot in Africa. So, but I'm joining you from Germany today. So I will put my dot on Germany here. And yeah, I'm very keen to be part of this today, because we're engaging in my work also with the Global Alliance for Care, and we're aware of the whole global care debate. So when I saw your workshop, I thought, wow, I absolutely want to join this. That's why I'm here. Nice to meet all.
Amazing. That's incredible, Dominic. We absolutely would love to hear your experience, because that's kind of where we will be ending, where how do we connect, how do we take these conversations further. So I'm sure you've got so much to share with us. Thank you. who do we have left? Nargis, would you like to jump in?
Hello everyone again. My name is Nargis. I'm in Georgia. I'm based in Georgia now, Nureki. So I'm a part of Inclusive Practices team. I have two beautiful daughters, and I love Georgia very, very much.
Oh, that is amazing to hear. It really ignites my inner George and makes me very proud. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that. So as I said, we'll be using Jamboard. So if you haven't used the Jamboard before, don't worry about it. It's super easy to use. So pretty much what we will do is we'll have a few questions in the next few slides. So we'll ask you, we'll have conversations around those slides. And if you share some idea, opinion, or anything, please, with a few words or just a little summary, it can even be just a word, record that on the Jamboard. And the way you can do it is that you can just grab one of the sticky notes that you'll see on the slide on the side, just write on them and post it. If you prefer to just use the sticky note, you have a function here on the left hand side. So if you just press here and let's say write hi, you can just stick it to wherever you'd like. Okay. And again, if you feel uncomfortable with Jamboard, it's not really your thing, don't worry about it. As I said, most of all, we just really want to be having conversations and discussions. So please, let's stay as engaged as possible. Right. So just to spark these conversations a little bit about the context of Scotland, you heard in the video that there have been massive and quite exciting changes happening in Scotland, and coming from a different background, I have this ability to compare and contrast, and I know that really amazing initiatives are being done here. So just to give you an idea what care actually is in Scotland, for people to be looked after, so care experienced people, they usually go to placements. They can be looked after either at home or away from home. So what you see on this slide, these are different placement types that a person can go to. So the types of placements that are away from home are foster care, kinship care, and residential care. So foster care is quite a well-known one. I know that it, especially in the Western communities, it is quite established. It's where when a person is placed with a people or a family that they usually haven't met before, and foster carers receive payment for the services that they provide. Now, kinship care is the type of placement when a child or a young person is placed with their family member. Okay, so it can be their aunt, uncle, grandfather, grandmother. However, state is still involved in the process, and the carers receive payment for their services in the same way as foster carers. And then the third type away from home is residential care. And this is when a child is placed in more of an institutional establishment with 4 to 6 other children, and they're cared by employed staff members. All right. And then, of course, we have looked after at home. I know this is quite different because not all states provide this type of placement. So this is when a child remains in their home, in their family environment. However, the state is still involved, and state provides services and support to the family so that the child is still able to maintain themselves and be cared for in their family environment. And then finally, we have other type, and this is when a child is put in a different community with prospective adopters, and once they get adopted, they're taken off the register. They're no longer considered as looked after. All right. However, I do have to say that the term care experienced has been a preferred term by care experienced people in Scotland themselves. It's something that kind of makes them as active subjects of their own experience, and it covers all of these areas. So we don't look how long someone was in care or what type of placement they were in. If someone was under the system of care, they are care experienced, and we try to be inclusive with our language. So having said that, let's see what what we explored here kind of about different types of placements in Scotland. Did it sound familiar to you in terms of how it happens in your country or in the countries that you live in or you have worked in? Would be really happy to hear yeah, how care works in your context. Anyone would like to jump in, share? Hi, Dominic.
I can break the ice. Katie.
Oh, amazing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Very briefly. So all the systems that you've described are familiar from what I know of from Germany and France, where I've lived and worked. Now I'm engaging mostly in low and middle income contexts, and there it's mostly either residential care, and then often in a very segregated setting, or it's at-home care, simply because there are no resources, no systems in place. So then quite naturally, it's the family members who take care of their relatives. Yeah. And I should have mentioned I'm working with persons with disabilities, so that's the context I know most. Yeah, other contexts I can't talk about so much.
Absolutely, that's really useful. And actually, we also, we speak a lot about intersectionality, and one of the grounds which might take a person into care can be severe disabilities where their family can't look after them. So absolutely, it is for us under the umbrella of care and in our radar as well. That is so important and an interesting observation that, in Germany and France, a lot of what you observed, it's very similar to Scotland. Mm-hmm. And coming from also knowing the context of Georgia, I know that the country has been trying to move away from big, massive institutional residential homes to family type, community-based homes. And later on, we will be discussing different issues. There are absolutely so many barriers in terms of politics and cultural aspects that get in the way of this shift. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Anyone else would like to come in and share the context of your country? Inara, I see you're juggling around. We're always happy to see babies on the screen. Don't feel pressured. I see that you're juggling. So if you prefer to contribute through the chat function, don't worry about it. Right. Well, we're still here on this question. Dominic, I actually had a question to you. See, when you were describing that a lot of people in in lower income countries, they remain in their family settings because there are no resources really to put them in under the care system. Is there any support usually provided for families while they are in this they're looked after at home?
I mean, the answer is it depends. So it depends on culture also. So in many countries we engage in, there are very strong family networks and informal networks of support. So that kind of support is then provided, and often we also try to support those existing networks to get even stronger and get better organized. That can be in the in the way of self-help groups or parents groups. So these informal networks, they are usually there. Yeah, so usually they exist to a different degree of organization. And then in some countries, of course, there's also formal support that is organized at community level, ideally with some level of subsidies or financial support also to recognize the care work that has been done at home. But that is a big issue. There's a lot of unpaid and unrecognized care work in low and middle income settings, and that has a bearing on entire families. Then mothers or other family members cannot go to work, cannot even, siblings cannot go to school, and that has a bearing on the entire life of a person who is a caregiver as well. And maybe I should mention one additional thing, which is about dependencies. So for us, a big topic is also about the choice of the care you receive and the caregiver. And very often in low resource settings, there's a huge dependency of those who receive care, for instance, on family members. It's not necessarily their choice, and they're expected to be grateful for the care they receive, but they cannot really choose the kind of care they would like to receive and the kind of setting they would like to live in. So that is a big topic as well.
I think from what you mentioned, I'm sure Jasmine and Carly are seeing a lot of similarities with our context as well. So in Scotland, we currently, so kinship care can be formal or informal. So through formal kinship care, what happens is that the state, places a child with the family members, distant family members or family friends. And that way state services are involved. However, and that means that, that child or young person will be entitled to a lot of support and will receive support certain type of support once they leave care as well. However, it's very much a postcode lottery. So what happens is that different local authorities provide different types of support in terms of kinship care. And then a lot of times in informal settings, we know that some people just arrange kinship informally from what you mentioned, and we would still enlist them, we would categorize them as care experienced people. They should have access to all of that support. However, unfortunately, that's not the case because they're not on official registers. And then a lot of times we know that people themselves don't know that they're entitled to that kind of support. So they just miss and don't get access to it. So that is the case of in Scotland. And dependency is absolutely what you said, kind of not having the choice of where a child will be placed, and then being placed in a certain setting which not necessarily fits them, and not having their voice taken into account. And that's why advocacy work that our organization does is so important. Not sure if anyone else wants to add anything. Jasmine or Carly, do you guys have anything to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really interested. It's so funny how similar it actually is in the kind of world stage. It's really, especially what you were saying, Dominic, in terms of the kind of different kinds of support offered. I find that really interesting. I guess that's all that I would add. As well, we're just at past, so we'll just get kind of final comments on this first question. We'll move on to the next.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? Nargis, I'm not sure if you're very much aware of the care system. Oh, yes, please, Dominic.
No, let go Nargis first. I talked already too much, but then I could have a question for you. Based
Oh,
on what-
no. Yeah, absolutely. In case you have anything to share, Nargis, otherwise no pressure at all.
I would like to say about Kazakhstan. I think about Georgia, maybe you know the situation with care system. In Georgia, we have care system here. And about Kazakhstan, in Kazakhstan, it's named the social work, social system for people. In case of children and young people in Kazakhstan, it's the children with disability, for example, children without parents, and they can take this social help from government. And the main point that in Kazakhstan is many communities of enthusiastic people, of volunteers who try to change the system, who try to organize this work. And I think it's very important. And this theme, it's very interesting for me. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that. Dominic, did you want to come in with a question?
Yeah, sure, because you were mentioning about the need to know about what's existing. So a big part of the need that we usually see and we want to respond to is counseling. It's helping people to have access to or understand how to get access to what's already there. Is that part of Who Cares Scotland's work as well?
Absolutely. Actually, Who Cares Scotland initially was an advocacy organization. Later on, we transferred to kind of be membership organization. We included a lot of fun and, you know, the community aspect of it, but advocacy still remains to be at the heart of the work that we do, because what we do is that we get referrals, and any care experienced child or a young person in different local authorities, if they're facing some kind of issue, we get a referral. We have, you know, professional advocates who build relationships. We create that space for them to actually create trust and build that relationship, so that within those, you know, relationship-based kind of interaction, children feel safe to share their issues. And then we advocate either within children's hearing system, or it can be whatever institution they're facing the issue with, or we also do collective advocacy, and then we try to kind of advocate for the change in policy or legislation, some of the work that was highlighted in the video. So absolutely, that's I would say central to the work that we do.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, of course. Well, should we move to the next question? Then Jasmine, should I hand over to you for this question?
Hi, thank you so much for having us all together, and it's really good to get different opinions and perspectives on what's happening in each country and how the system works as well. Just moving on from the previous question, so considering inclusion challenges and opportunities, especially post-pandemic, for care experienced people, what do you think we could learn and do to make the world better for care experienced people across the world? And I'll start. Do you want me to? What are the big questions that we need to be asking? What could we be doing? Is there anything that we should shine the light on? Any inequalities or human rights violations that you think in your country we should probably highlight when talking about this particular group of people?
And I think, Jasmine, in the first part, when we were discussing, you know, the system of care, some of these things already started popping up. We already somehow touched up on a few things that, kind of point to the very common issues.
I guess when we're talking about very common issues, in my own experiences and my family's experience, when a child is put into a residential care setting or just basically being away from home, and it's really easy to become kind of institutionalized, and especially with our residential care settings, there's a lot of kind of police involvement. So I would say that that's a real issue, and we see a kind of pattern between young people that go into care through the children's hearing system as an alternative to prosecution, then end up further institutionalized in the prison systems later on in life. And I guess I'm really interested to see if that's something that happens in your countries, or you see something like that kind of going on, and how can we address that?
Anyone would like to jump in? Dominic, I see you.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm very conscious that I'm talking a lot, so I would also love to hear from the others. So, so I think, I mean, from the experiences we made, deinstitutionalization is of course a big debate, and we work a lot with organizations of persons with disabilities who advocate for that and fight for that. But it's a process, yeah, it's not a thing that happens overnight. And I think that's very important to acknowledge, also in the interest of people who have sometimes lived for decades in institutions. It would be very detrimental to close these institutions overnight and have them on the streets. So you need to have a good system to transition from institutions to other forms of care and support. And that's what we see in a number of countries. It's a process, it's a slow process, and sometimes even people who have been in institutions for a very long time, they are against leaving these institutions because they are so much used to that environment. So sometimes there's also a clash between the rights-based advocacy, I mean, which I wholeheartedly support, this is where we should go to, and the realities. And that is between users of those institutions and people who advocate for closing the institutions. So in a nutshell, for me, it's a process and it needs careful maneuvering. It's not a switch on, switch off thing, closing institutions and moving to something else overnight. That would be my comment.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Actually, just to comment on that point, I know that what you said there, very smooth transition. I definitely see that in Scotland happening. There, you know, a whole family approach and the emphasis on supporting a child within the family environment is prioritized. However, if I contrast that with the case in Georgia, something I would highlight is how much a lot of times the state of democracy and the general political environment has an impact on the process, because I know Georgia's been one of the countries that has been trying to transition from an institutional setting to more community-based, family-based care. But since the change in the government, we know that the process has been hindered, and there has been a pause put to it, and it is usually children that feel that difference the most. It was almost like that smooth transition was supposed to happen. Legislation was getting ready for it, policies were put in place, but then when the action needed to be taken, the duty bearers, the politicians didn't really want to take that risk and that responsibility upon themselves. So yeah, I would completely agree what you said about smooth transition and yeah, the process in it. Anyone else would like to highlight anything, maybe post-pandemic, is there something that speaks to you, Jasmine? So
I was thinking maybe in terms of sometimes stigma is quite a big thing for people to overcome. And it's that stigma of being institutionalized, but also having to explain family stories or family backgrounds. Such a small thing, it can't be so easy sometimes. And highlighting that sometimes a child could be blamed, or it's deemed as because you're in this situation, then you were bad. And I think that's something that's a big barrier, is trying to change perceptions of this group of people.
Mhm. That is so important. Jasmine, thank you so much for mentioning
I
that.
totally agree with Jasmine in terms of stigma being an issue in care. But I think when we're thinking about the question in terms of how to make the world better for care experienced people, what we always talk about is love and belonging. And that's still always going to be something to consider. And it's a lifelong thing. It's something that we constantly need to be working on. So I'm just wondering if there's anything that you guys do that maybe we could learn from, or vice versa. You've seen in our video, we do the kind of love rally and our summer camp and things like that, and that really helps. So post-pandemic, we think it would be really great to have these kind of events reopened, to bring that back, I guess.
Anyone like to come in just to share the experience, if there are any good practices in terms of tackling stigma? I know, for example, Scotland's huge in language and targeting stigma through language, and it's so important. For example, the shift from looked after to care experience is one of the examples. I know that in Georgia, until this day, the term of care deprived children is quite common, which is horrible because, again, it's so deficit based and referring to something that a child is lacking rather than having. Dominic, yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, again, I can share from some experiences we have made. So in order to tackle stigma, again, it's a long journey. Yeah, I think you need to acknowledge that it doesn't happen overnight. And then what we're trying to do is to really get into a conversation with the communities at different levels. And it begins, I would say, very low-key with informing persons with disabilities, caregivers, about the rights they have, informing them about what they can claim, and then have various conversations with duty bearers, with informal authorities in the community, to again and again have the same conversation, and ideally have persons with disabilities, or in the context you've put it, care experienced people, speak for themselves, so that they can actually talk as somebody who is concerned, who can speak from their own experience, and who can bring a lot of credibility to the claims they make. And then over time, I mean, creating these bridges and these links over time, you realize that you're just talking to another human being. I think that's something that Tom also said last night during the plenary. Don't look at the disability or the reason for the care first. Look at the person. That's just the person sitting in front of you, and you can have an exchange from human to human. But we're also not being naive. That takes time to get to that point. So creating these little spaces, and also setting the basics to actually be able to have that conversation is a process.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Actually, so many times for us, it's kind of juggling between having massive campaigns, having big, rallies, but at the same time, it's always important to balance it with and never lose and forget the value of conversations that happen in communities and smaller spaces, and actually that might be, that is the point that connects you with that bigger change.
Katie, I would like to agree with Dominica and with you. I think it's a process, and it's important that in this process, everyone has the opportunity to develop within the environment which is changed. And when we're talking about how can we do to make the world better, we should speak about connectedness between people within the community. Connectedness, what kind of social connectedness? If we mean human relations, it should be a conversation about empathy, to see not disability or diagnosis, to see a human, to see a child, to see a young girl, or to see a young person with his energy, potential, and it's a main point.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing all of these thoughts. And just a quick reminder that this really is just the start of the conversations. We're really touching, the tip and the surface here to speak about the World Care, and hopefully we want to keep on speaking about these topics and have spaces to discuss World Care, how it is done worldwide, and where are areas, which areas are actually getting it right, which practices are, kind of done in the right way where we can learn from, and where are the gaps that we share and maybe we need to tackle more globally. So I know, Dominic, you mentioned that that you have some experience with the global network, worldwide network around care. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah, sure. I should put first that this is also an alliance or a movement we're trying to link up to. So CBM is not part of the Global Alliance for Care, but I mean, the background is, I think the pandemic has put like a magnifying glass on the situation of care. Yeah, so this has opened quite a global conversation, particularly also on the situation of caregivers, mostly women and girls who have to provide care services. Let me put it that bluntly, very often, because nobody else is there. So on this backdrop, on this background, a Global Alliance for Care has been established, I think, only last year, with a huge push from Latin America. So it's a global movement, but it comes from South America. And currently, there's a huge conversation going on around care, care economies, the role of governments and duty bearers in setting the right frameworks and the right policies and making the right budget provisions for care. And if you ask me, I would expect that this conversation is going to gain even more in speed and in substance, and that a lot of countries around the world will review and revise their care economy and their care systems as a consequence of the pandemic. So I can post in the chat in a moment the link to the Global Alliance for Care, which I would see at the moment at the forefront of that conversation. But I don't think they're the only ones. There are a number of networks now that are emerging. And if I'm being very simplistic, I think in terms of care, there's usually there are three groups of people who are mostly affected as recipients of care. It's children, it's older people, and it's persons with disabilities. Yeah, I mean, there's more to that. It's very black and white, but it's three key groups. And so we're really trying to engage, as we're working on disability inclusion, with the older people's movements and the movements, the youth movements, and really try to also influence that care conversation to make sure that these groups of persons are included and their voices are heard when we're talking about care economies, care budgets, and arrangements. Yeah, so I'll stop here, but in a nutshell, that's what's currently happening. Yeah, we're also working in alliance and in partnership with other organizations to be part of the conversation.
That's actually incredible, Dominic. We would absolutely love to make connections with the Alliance and with yourself, because this part of the reason why we wanted to start conversations around this is that we know that there are quite you know, a lot of movements and kind of groups and networks being shaped. However, a lot of times we see that there is crisis around solidarity between different movements and different groups being shaped. So how do we bring these conversations together? How do we link everything up, everyone up? And we know that it's quite of a tricky process, being, you know, Scotland being kind of a small country. We know that we've progressed quite a lot and there have been a lot of enablers. However, even within the UK, we know that it's not the same. Within Scotland, in different areas, the care system is not the same. So absolutely, we would love to share our experience, but also with so many things being done worldwide, we would also love to learn from that. So that being said, I'll just slide to this last slide. So if you are interested in kind of joining further conversations around that, or you feel like kind of what you said, Dominique, there, the Global Alliance, and if you have some of the people that might be interested in you know, being part of these conversations, please put your email address on the Jamboard. We would love to be in touch and keep on having these conversations. Also, there is Gavin's email there. So if you have any questions or, you know, some practice wanted to be shared from Scotland, we would absolutely love to do that. I know Jasmine had to jump out because she had to leave early. Anyone else would like to contribute, or any final thoughts and comments before we go to the main space?
I have a question. Sorry, I'm jumping in a lot. Just wondering if there's any kind of, we have the Love Rally in our summer camp, but I'm wondering for you guys, is there anything that comes to mind, like an event you guys do or a service you might take part in or know about that you think in your own experience has been helpful for those you work with?
So I'm sorry. Thank you, Katie. Very free and comfortable to talk to you. And I'm sorry that I didn't participate so actively. But I want to join the words of Nargis and Dominic that indeed communication and the global network between communities is an important component, and the more we develop these social contacts around the world, this is better to the local community develop. And as they say, think globally, yes, and act locally. This is the main slogan of the ICD, and it's this regard lies the main force of community development, I think. So thank you for this amazing experience.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Inara, for still being able to share. I know the struggle of having to juggle, so I really appreciate that you've hang on till the end, and yeah, that's really useful to hear. So if you feel like you'd like to be invited in further conversations around the topic, please just write your email on the Jamboard, or if you don't feel comfortable with Jamboard, feel free to just pop that into the chat, and I'll make sure that we save that in our records.
Katie, help me. How can I use this Jamboard?
So,
so you.
Sorry about that. I know.
have
So
a technical issue.
I know, no worries. That's usually me in every space. So what you do is just grab one of these sticky notes, and then if you stand on it and double click, it will open and you'll be able to write whatever you want, and then you'll just click.
Oh, okay.
Right?
I'll try again.
Yeah, please do, and feel free to just use the chat function if
Yeah, I'll write to the chat.
yes, please.
Can I write my email? Yes, on the chat.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you. I'll just put perfect. I'll save the email address. For some reason, I can copy it to the Jamboard, but I'll make sure to get hold of those. Right. Thank you so much, everyone, for wonderful contributions, for very interesting conversations, and hopefully this is just the start, and we'll see you in the main space in just a minute then.
Thank you so much, Katie, Kelly.
See you then. Thank you.
Thank you
Bye.
very much. See you.
Hello again.
Hi there again.
Are we finished first?
Looks like we all jumped out. Everyone should be coming back in a few seconds.
So I have a co-host, right? And we can make a surprise to another breakout rooms and join them. Oh, okay. Hello.
Oh, welcome back.
All look like very fresh.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, everyone. It's always hard. I'd set up the breakout rooms, and it's always hard to pull you back into the main space when we're probably halfway through conversations. So apologies, first of all, from that. But I wanted to, today was simply about starting conversations around what care looks like across the world, and sharing, and I'd like to hear from each of the groups. So I wonder, Laura, would you be willing to, or someone from your team be willing to share just a little highlight or essence from your conversations?
Sure, I can, unless anyone else wants to interrupt me, including Louise or Ross. No? Okay, cool. So we had a really really interesting discussion around the differences in the care system in Kazakhstan, Scotland, and the USA. So Louise gave us an example from a really horrific example of human rights violations in the USA around around kind of selling and trafficking and smuggling of children that our care experienced. So we were discussing the need for ratification of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child by the USA, and also for those rights to be at the heart of the care system in any country. And then we spoke about in Kazakhstan the care system being less kind of the state intervening in families and more around volunteers and communities rallying around to support families. And also there was an interesting example of the relationship between inclusive practices in Georgia and Kazakhstan, where some families visit Georgia and learn more about how to make their support more inclusive to children with autism, and how basically countries can be learning from one another, and getting that kind of experiential learning where you're seeing it with your own eyes in another country. And then lastly, we spoke about how we can share practices globally. We discussed the kind of the Love Rally and how and the kind of commitments from government, feeling quite impressive and exciting for our colleagues from Kazakhstan to kind of see. And then we spoke about how Louise was talking about how, yes, it was so exciting, but we can't keep our foot off the gas. We must keep accelerating towards change and make sure that we're in Scotland at least, and elsewhere, it's not just positive commitments that are being made, but also action to improve care for children and families. So yeah, hopefully that's a good summary, but feel free to chip in if I missed anything.
Laura, thank you. That's beautiful. And before I share our group, Katie, would you like to say a little bit about what came across from your group?
Absolutely, yeah. And everyone who sat in my group, if you feel like there's something important being missed, please jump in and share. So we had very interesting conversations. It's quite interesting because we all were coming from backgrounds where we live in a place, but we also kind of work in different places. So we came from our own perspectives, but also having worked in different settings. So it's interesting that actually Dominic was sharing that within Germany and France, the system is quite similar to that of Scotland. However, he's also worked in kind of lower income countries, and we see that a lot of times in spaces like that, care is too institutionalized, based in big institutional establishments. And then we had a little discussion around how transition from big institutional spaces can happen into more community-based, family-based care, and how that is absolutely a process. It can't be changed overnight. It contains so many different aspects and different areas, and it absolutely needs to be a cultural change. So it was quite interesting to see that there are so many commonalities, but also, let's say we touched upon, in a lot of lower income countries, we know that care a lot of times is happening on a very informal basis, and usually that is very much connected to unpaid labor as well, unrecognized labor, usually given by women. And that is, even though Scotland is kind of progressing from there, and we know that we are kind of having this whole family approach and we're embracing that, we know that that still is a massive issue, and it's not just happening in lower income countries. Also, we spoke quite a bit about kind of where the change needs to be happening. We spoke about stigma and how is it that we tackle stigma, but and as much as it's important to have these kind of global movements, big campaigns, we also know that the conversations essentially need to be happening in communities, and we need to be approaching people as just human beings that deserve and can be having change, and including them because they carry this experience and their voices need to be central. Also, we had wonderful, when we spoke about global opportunities, we spoke how there are many alliances, movements happening in different parts of the world, and Dominic was sharing and he also, it's very interesting. He also shared with us the link, which I'll bring to our organization. There is a global alliance of care, which is so interesting. There are some conversations already happening globally, and it's about kind of finding those spaces where we find solidarity and consolidate all these different movements that are happening in different spaces. So yeah, thank you so much for really lovely conversations, and please feel free to jump in and add if I've missed something.
Wow. Yes, anyone, any further comments from Katie's group? Amazing. Wow, the richness that has come out across. I think our group would echo a lot of what you said. Some of the other highlights that came from our group, Olga was mentioning, both from sort of Kazakhstan and Georgia, that sense of the need for connection, the need to honor babies as baby group, as children as children's groups, as young people as young people's groups, and adults, but also the elderly as their own unique configuration or constellation. But so important is that lifelong journey, that intergenerational work where they as communities themselves come together to solve and support the problems and the issues that are there, and that's sometimes easier in some countries than in others, where they can communicate more openly and more freely, and where they can't. Pauline also mentioned something around the importance of well, we sort of mentioned briefly sort of the monetization of fostering or adoption, and sometimes people not going into it for the right reasons, or more going into it for the money than for children. We've heard a lot of that around Scotland as well. Something around finding the leaders in our countries that can stand up and support the conversations that need to happen around the world in their countries. And I love, Dominic, you mentioning the Global Alliance. I think that's something that's so important to keep these conversations. That was part of the next steps in terms of where can we go from here. And we'll be taking a lot of the feedback you guys have given us to this. I would love to do two final things before we go. I think I've just sent you a little Menti code. I'm going to try and send you the link as well. Let me see here. I'd love you, if you have just a few minutes, I'm going to show a final video as well, just to close this session before I check in with Nargis. But this link goes to Menti. I'll share my screen really briefly. Let me just go to, if you guys can fill in just a couple of like feedback, like how's the session been today for you guys. So let me share my screen to show you what it looks like. You should be able to follow the link, and let me do this now. Share screen. Yeah, so hopefully we're just asking you a couple of questions. If you get a chance, you can go to menti.com and you can click on the code. You can put in the code 89083636 on your phone or your laptop, and just please, yeah, put in some comments, and we can also move to the second, this is the main one. The other one's just, have you got any other thoughts? So I'd love you just fill in a few comments for us. It's really grateful. It helps us. But what I'd like to do is while you're doing that, and I'm conscious of time, Nargis, is it okay to share a 4-minute video just as our ending to this session? I just wanted to check in with you first before I thank everyone. Check if there's any final comments. Then
that's good. We have time.
Perfect. So yeah, great exchange, intergenerational, energy, like-minded, informative. Thank you, everyone. This is a conversation that we in Who Cares Scotland wanted to have and start. We know it's not the only conversation. We know there's lots going on. Dominique mentioning the Global Care Alliance. These are the conversations we need to be having more of and sharing success stories of where things are working well, especially in terms of human rights. You know, when it comes down to where things are working well, we should be sharing that evidence, that the good practice, and helping other areas and other countries to step up and step forward. We've had some great success in Scotland, shining the light on areas that have not been good, and we're not there yet, but we're a good step forward, and we'd love to share our experiences with others and learn from others as well, so we can keep these conversations live and meaningful, and ultimately they're for the benefit of our children, our young people, and also the adults that have experienced care as well. It can be life-changing and transformative, and some of the comments that came from our group is when we come together to connect, just like we have done today, we make the world a better place. So I want to say a huge, huge thank you to each of you for today. Just before I share a video, does anyone have any final comments or reflections to the group? Dominique.
Yeah, I would simply like to say thank you, Gavin, to you and your team for organizing this workshop today and facilitating this session. That was really great. Thank you so much. A lot of appreciation from my side for this.
Oh, Dominique, thank you. As we said, let's have more of these. It feels important with people around the world to stay connected. One thing that came from us is sometimes we feel, especially, you know, as we move post-pandemic, that we've been very insular in our own countries, and now is the time more than ever to reach out around the world to have these conversations and learn from each other in diverse ways. Anyone else before I share a video? Beautiful, okie doke. Let me just pull up my video. And we're going to close. So we're going to close with a little video. I'm going to say to Nargis, first of all, a huge thank you for organizing this. I think if we can all go off mute and just give her a big clap. Nargis, huge, huge thank you. Yes, a huge clap and a huge love to all of you here today. These matter, you know, in community development. It's the conversations and the connections we make that matter. So I'm just deeply grateful. Stay for the last few minutes to listen to this video, and we wish you all a fantastic rest of the day. Nargis, is that okay? Is there anything from you want to say before we close?
I will share one link to our Discord platform in our chat. Please join us on the digital platform Discord, and we will connect there with you. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, all of you gorgeous, beautiful people. I also, I'll just say this, I also volunteer with a charity that plants peace poles all around the world with a declaration, may peace prevail on earth. So as we close, may peace prevail on every country in the world, in the hearts and minds of every child, young person, adult and elderly in our society. We are making a difference to this world. I'm going to say thank you and goodbye, and here's a little video.
I am announcing today that we will launch an independent root and branch review of the care system. It will look at the underpinning legislation, practices, culture and ethos, and it will be driven by those.
The announcement, when the First Minister announced the care review at the SNP conference, that was a massive...
Oh, sorry everyone, wrong video. Apologies, 1 second. I'm going to reshare my screen. It's just 4 minutes long. We were going to share the same video as before. Sorry, Ross. Here we go. So share. Oh, usually my tech skills are so much better. Share sound, share video. Love Rally. Here we go. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
because we want to see change happening.
We've been in care, do you know what I mean? That doesn't make us any different. It makes us better, I think.
We've been working really hard to improve our knowledge and understanding of children and young people's experience of care and the experience of the hearing system. And we're trying to do as much as we can to support Who Cares in this movement.
Because I have always said that young care experienced people need love, and
the irony in it is, this is 2018. This is the 21st century. We have cars that can drive themselves, and we don't have love. Care experienced people like me and like you don't have love. And I want everybody that's walking the length of Buchanan Street right now, everybody, hello, I see yous all, you with a hat. We are care experienced and we deserve love. We deserve equality. We deserve respect and we deserve the exact same as anybody else in this world. The way that you would treat your children, you should treat us, because guess what? We are your children.
I just think it's great to see so many people standing behind the same cause, and that's something that's been neglected for too long.
I'm finding it very emotional. I think it's a fantastic experience to be here with other people with care experience, and also organisations and agencies that support young people with the experience of care.
It shows that we, as individuals, everyone should be equal, everyone should be loved, and we as individuals are making a difference to how other people are viewed.
Society itself and what we can do and what we can bring to better the world, better the society, better people's opinions.
I'll remember that. Do you know what it would take for it is that, you know, the amount of people I've seen that as we're walking along that joined it.
Just the support and the sort of power of the movement.
Banding together for one cause, and I think it's fundamental to our society to show the general public what care experienced people can do.
This is obviously it's a groundbreaking thing. It's never happened before. They've never had care experienced people rallying for change.
Hope and affirmation that we're absolutely on our way.
But being here has probably tapped into an emotional experience for me. I feel like it's been really quite special sharing this experience with lots and lots of people who've been through the care system.
Because it's just fun, it would be really good to come here again.
The smile on everybody's faces, not just those marching, but those on the pavements and in the buildings as well.
Bring attention to it and obviously be with people that are of similar circumstances and we've all been through similar things, and obviously be there to feel the support as well, to feel like we can do something about it.
I think what we take away is that the support's building, and after a movement like this you can't go back.
The confidence and not, for once, not feeling ashamed of having to tell people that I've been in care or that I've experienced that. I'm kind of proud of it more, I think.
Thank you, everyone, for a really beautiful day with you guys. It's been really meaningful, and we're just sending our love and our appreciation to you all across the world. I think we should end now by just simply waving and head off when you're ready. Lots of love and thank you.